This is Brett with the Indie Comics Dispatch, and shipping from an undisclosed location deep within the Milky Way galaxy. This is broadcast from the Dispatch. Good evening, sir.
Going on? How you doing?
You liked the variant in the introduction this evening, didn't you?
Yes, I did. You know me, I'm a stickler on shipping and shipping correctly.
Well, yeah, you and I have actually been talking about tonight's topic for a while because we're in a couple different groups together where this is a frequent thing. People getting comics that shipped to them that just are subpar. The shipping, not the comics. The comics might be. I don't know.
Right. The comics might be good, but person can't find out if they're good if they get them in there. Looks like a dog got a hold of it, or you might have that angry post office person who or not just angry, they just want to get the day over with, so they might roll it.
Shove it in your mailbox.
You got to think about all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'm excited to get to that. We got a couple of top-notch guests tonight who are I've received packages from each of them, so I know that they are both great at shipping. And so if you want to share your shipping horror stories or your shipping highlights with us, that's always a positive too.
This is the time.
Drop them in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube, and Indie Comics Rebellion, where we live stream exclusively, the only group we live stream directly to. And we have a Indie Comics Rebellion person, Facebook user, saying, hey guys, if you're in the group, we can't actually see who you are unless you grant StreamYard your permissions. So just a little FYI. So Tier, let's before we introduce our guests, let's hear how the Kickstarter is going, my man.
It's going well. Last time I checked, it's at 2101. So I mean, that's
2,101% of goal.
Exactly. I made 2,000 and passed my goal.
For those of you who don't know, Tier mistyped his goal and made it almost immediately.
Yeah. As soon as I did it, I just launch, and then people told me later, like, you really wanted to go for 100? Like, no, that was supposed to be 1,000. But I mean, either way, I made both goals, so I can't be too mad.
Let me see. So I know that your shipping is on your mind as you wrap up this Kickstarter, and I just got a bunch of Indie Comics Dispatch patron rewards ready to ship this evening. So you may have gotten an email from the Dispatch this evening saying that you have an incoming package. So I'm going to take this moment to plug the patron, Patreon, not patron.
There you go.
But thank you for patrons. Go to patreon.com/Indie Comics Dispatch and you can get some cool stuff. Right now we're sending out, I can never say it, Tier. Say it for me.
It's Ayamo Stigmata.
Thank you. Number one, a cover that's soon to be retired. If your patrons 11 through 20, you get that. So
we're actually probably gonna, because we're starting with Temple High issue 2, then we're gonna go to Cypher Team issue 3, and then Ayamo Stigmata issue 3. That's the order because the art team that I have work all 3 of those books. So that's the order we're gonna go. And so we're probably gonna draw that new cover for issue 1 here soon. So so by the time it's time for that Kickstarter for issue 3, the old cover is going to be gone.
But it's a patron. You can get it.
You can get it. I did the same thing for this Kickstarter. I guess people are like, I don't want that old cover. I'm like, that's fine. It's going. I mean, that's the reason why I'm retiring it.
Well, I mean, you got some pretty dope new covers coming out. They're very awesome. So everybody can check that out on your Kickstarter on the Sovereign Comics social media channels. Let's get to introducing guests.
Oh, yeah. Bring them on.
So Our first guest is Jason Reeves. He is the owner of 133 Art, a comic book publishing imprint and printer. In addition to being a comic publisher, 133 Art, in partnership with MB Media and Hero Unlimited, formed the comic book distribution company Bic Distro. Jason is also a freelance illustrator from time to time. For more information on Jason, 133 Art, 133 Art Printing, and Bic Distro, visit 133art.com and bicdistro.com. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. We've had several of your compatriots on the show. Milton Davis has been on the show. Brian Lambert, who does a lot with you, has been on the show. Several other people. Greg, Elise Anderson. But it's finally great to have you on the show, and I'm so excited.
I'm excited as well, man. We've been like trains passing in the night.
We have
every so often, so I'm glad to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. And when we get a little bit later, we'll show the Bic Distro commercial that we have on tap here at the Dispatch. So
nice.
All right. And then our second guest this evening is John. John is the owner of Encased Comics, an online comic book store where he sells graded comics and an array of indie comics. He will try to make you go broke, believe me. John is also a comic collector himself. His favorite characters being Reverse Flash. That's an interesting one. Spawn, Batman, and Static. John, welcome, my friend.
He is also responsible for my graded comic addiction. He's the plug. Just saying.
He's trying to get me.
If you need an alibi, let me know. You want it in a raffle.
He offered that to me the other night. I was like, "No, my wife will still know. She will know."
I think I have a couple on the way. Oh man.
Yeah, they were dropped off yesterday.
So tonight's topic is shipping. You two are experts. Before we get into shipping, we've been starting with some headlines, some kind of quasi-recent headlines. So we'll jump into that for just a minute. And let me pop this up here. Bleeding Cool. If anybody from Bleeding Cool ever watches this, you guys have so many ads on your site, but I digress. Bleeding Cool. So I love this story because Brian Hawkins has been on the show a few times now, and Patrick Foreman's a regular viewer too. We love them. But their alternate reality comic Black Cotton goes to second print, which is just freaking phenomenal. Brian is not only does this with Scout Comics. Brian works with Black Box Comics. He's done his own Kickstarter comics. So Brian's just all over the place right now.
Oh yeah.
So have you guys read Black Cotton #1 yet?
No,
I have not.
I actually have issue 1 in first print. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm excited to read that one.
On the list. I just got a lot to read.
Jason, what about you?
I haven't had a chance to read it. I was reading like reviews of it before the show and just kind of checking out what people were saying about it. But I remember I heard about it a while back, but I hadn't had a chance to pick it up on.
Isn't it weird? Like you never know. Like I feel like like I said, Brian's been on the show promoting Black Cotton, and I kind of feel like, we're a little bit responsible for that. Not at all. We're not at all responsible for that.
Yeah.
It's just cool to know somebody that is going through this type of blow up right now,
Yeah, it's big, the fact that they're getting a second printing of that. So
yeah. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. And ultimately what it tells you as a creator, somebody wants your book.
Yeah.
So when you hit second printing, third printing, fourth printing, you start that means somebody really wants your book, and that's a great thing as a creator. That's the best thing you can feel. So the best thing you want to feel.
It's heavy subject matter, that book.
It's very heavy. So
and stuff like that. So I could see a lot of people being into that.
Yeah. So for those out there viewing who may not have seen it yet or read the Indie Comics Dispatch's review of it, you can go to indiecomicsdispatch.com and read it. But it's about an alternate reality where the power structure and racism is reversed. So let me say this right now. There is no such thing as reverse racism. But in this alternate reality, the power structure is reversed.
Is reversed.
So
I'll get us counsel, Britt.
Go ahead, try. And so it's really cool. It starts off with the police shooting of an unarmed white woman. So like everything is reversed and the fallout from there. It's a really cool book. And you guys should definitely read it if you haven't yet. Go grab that second printing. So our second headline is from a while ago, but I know this book is just now hitting a lot of people's mailboxes. It's fulfilling its Kickstarter rewards, and this is old Keanu Reeves, Berserker. I have not read it. I did not back the Kickstarter, but
neither did I.
I know people who have. John, did you back it?
I didn't back it, but I did order a couple copies for myself just to read because I thought it was a great story and it's Keanu, so you can't really go that wrong.
What about you, Jason?
I didn't back it because I was like, Keanu got this, but
Right? He doesn't need my money.
I'm waiting for it to get more coming. So I definitely check it out. I like Ron Garney. It's like one of my favorite dudes. So I definitely want to check out, just for his art. And, I love Keanu. I mean, The Matrix is one of my favorite movie of all time. So,
you know what? Probably one of mine too. The first one. The other two I didn't love as much, but number one is probably one of my top favorite movies of all time. So, we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks back about big names jumping in the Kickstarter comic game. And I think it's still relevant to talk about again with different guests. What are the thoughts? Does it help the little guy? Does it hurt the little guy? Is it the little guy just not even in the picture here? What are y'all's thoughts?
I have mixed feelings, man. I'm like, being a little bit back, I don't know if it takes away from like my base or whoever's gonna back my Kickstarter per se. But just like if I'm running a Kickstarter parallel to Berserker, that feels kind of bad, like. And are they, and I don't have the metrics to know concretely that that's the thing, but I feel like if you're Keanu Reeves, you can just say, "Hey, we're doing a comic. Here's a few bucks. Do it." Like I don't know if they need Kickstarter on that level. So I need Kickstarter. I need that bucks, So I have mixed. It's very mixed. At the same time, I do want to see really cool projects get kickstarted, and it is cool to see a comic starring Keanu Reeves, but I'm mixed.
That's go ahead, John. You go ahead first.
I would say I'm with Jason on that. It's kind of a mix. From a retail side, it is a little bit difficult because in the case of Berserker, and even with the case of I don't know if you know Noctura from Scott Snyder.
Saw that.
There were different variants that were going out. Some you can get from the Kickstarter, some you can get from another distributor. A couple you can order from Diamond. And so for a retail standpoint, it's like, do you want to back for that particular cover, or do you want to make these different orders, which then is going to be a financial strain a little bit down the line? Especially when, because, as a retailer, we have to, we got to pay for the shipping of those books to us. You just pray that they come in and they're in great shape. I actually just got it, Noctura, that I ordered back in August of 2020.
Oh, wow.
I just got it yesterday.
Wow.
So it's one of those, like, it's, you want to support the creators, but it's like, do they really need support? And then would I have been able to allocate that money for another smaller indie creator who could at least have gotten me the books sooner?
Yeah.
That's how I am on it too. Like it's a mixed bag of cats. Like it's wild because I'm looking at it for all the same reasons. I'm like, you're millionaires. Why? Why are you doing that? But then I look at it too, and I'm like, I've noticed since, like, Todd McFarlane, who's a dude that I look up to, since he came up with that his Spawn action figure, and then Keanu Reeves with the Berserker, and then, Scott Snyder. You notice a lot of Kickstarters where before some of the smaller folks who get like, $1,000 here, might not break our goal. Like it seems like more people are breaking their, getting past their goals now. So
Yeah.
I look at it too, and I'm like, well, did these top name brand individuals who have their fans, did they bring folks to Kickstarter who may not have otherwise come to Kickstarter or didn't know about Kickstarter, and now they're looking there like, wait, you're telling me there's a whole world of comic books over here? Of people I haven't heard from, people who are, this is where they got their start, and now they're working for Marvel, DC, Image, and Scout and everything else. So I do look at it like that. That's my two sides. When I first heard about it, I was like, why? You guys got money. Like if I had millions of dollars, I probably wouldn't go to Kickstarter. But then I looked at the business side of it too, because I have to look at it things from that way too. And I'm like, well, I guess this is a sense where trickle down economics actually worked, because otherwise it doesn't. So I mean, because I know, like I said, for a while, I was like, every time I've done a Kickstarter, my last one was over 2,000, and this one's over 2,000. The ones before that were not. So it's like I'm seeing, of course, return. So I mean, like what Jason was saying, like the individuals who are gonna back Sovereign Comics, who are fans of Sovereign Comics, like, are they gonna say, oh, Keanu Reeves is here, screw Sovereign Comics? No, they're probably going to go back Berserker and then come back. Oh, okay, because I know Sovereign Comics and still back it. So I never looked at it as, oh, they're taking my folks away. Like, like if that's what you're thinking, then you might want to go back, do a SWOT analysis, and redo your marketing plan, and rebrand your company if you think someone's going to come and take stuff from you that simply. Or I don't know, maybe evaluate who it is that buys your books.
Right.
So I mean, so I never looked at it like that, but
it would be interesting to find out, and I don't know there's any way to do this, to look at these big names, because the big names kind of started around the same time as quarantine did, or COVID did. Not everybody's been quarantining, but
stop talking about that.
See if it's COVID related and kind of shutdown of Diamond, or if it's big name related, because you're right, there's been a huge boost to indie comics on Kickstarter since quote COVID's been around. So that'd be interesting.
I mean, there's the con idea too. Lack of cons.
Yeah,
is that why some may have done it? So I mean,
and they can frequent Kickstarter or or whoever more. So the comics maybe on the brain.
Yep. Because I know for sure, like with somebody like Todd McFarlane, he wouldn't have. Would he have done that if COVID wouldn't have happened? Nah, he probably would have just went to like San Diego Comic-Con, had a list and said, who wants this new Spawn action figure? And have people paying on the spot, signing the list. He probably wouldn't have done that. But since it's not there, this is the other option.
Well, he did go to the CGC for the signing last year. So.
Yeah, he did. He had a private signing there.
Yeah.
I wonder if Kickstarter's profile is like higher, like with COVID or whatever. Like, I mean, it's not a streaming service per se, but at the same time, it does have a lot of content on there that you can go and peruse and I want this, and then there's sort of like a little added thing where it's coveted, it's not here right now, it's coming, I can get this, so I'm wondering maybe Kickstarter's profile just kind of went up. And I don't know if that's necessarily the result of like a star like Keanu being on there or like a Spike Lee or anything, but maybe.
Very possible.
It's fair. It's fair. So let's get to we'll start with Kickstarter and then say, hey, you bought something, it's being fulfilled. Let's talk shipping. See that segue? I'm king of segues. Let's start with horror stories. Let's start with horror stories. Well, I was telling some of the guys before the show that when I was very young, I shipped this computer. It was a desktop, and I sold it on eBay. This is a personal something I did. And I just threw this sucker in a box, maybe wrapped it in some newspaper and shipped it to Florida. And so, a couple weeks go by and this guy emails me or messages me through eBay going like, dude, what the hell? And that's my shipping horror story, because I broke a computer that I sold.
Oh man.
I'll fix that one.
No, but comic book wise, I've received quite a few horror stories. I bought a Brother Man number 10. So hard to get Brother Man number 10s. It was a small print run. Number 11's the hardest. Number 10's the next hardest. Found one, bought it. And the dude shipped it in manila envelope, and it got folded up into my mailbox.
I just that bothers me so much. Like I already knew for me, whenever I started shipping, it was a test. Like I already knew off tops, I am not shipping these comics in a priority mailer. Like I'm not doing that. You know, I already knew that from gate. And I don't know, maybe that's the military in me, because I've always, you know, in my adult life, I've always been shipping something. You know, in college, learned how to ship things. Then when I went into the Marine Corps and, you know, packing mill vans and all those other sorts, same thing in the Army, I knew how to ship stuff so it gets to you, not broken, because you don't want to ship a radio to somebody and this is like a freaking $40,000-$50,000 piece of equipment, and then they get it and it's all cracked and broke and bent. I'm gonna get in trouble for that, you know. So I always, so from then I learned from that stuff, I learned how to ship. But with comics, before I started shipping my own, of course, I backed Kickstarters, and I would get the manila envelope stuff or the priority mailer stuff. My favorites, I would get a priority mailer, and the book wouldn't be backed and boarded, you know. And it'd be in there with the, with the poster too, and there's nothing really protecting the poster. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, you can already see the edges. You can already see where the mail person may have bent it, or, you know, it may have just got caught up on something, you know, going through the conveyor belt, whatever, you know. And I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, I know this is going to be messed up, you know. And I open it, and I'm like, well, I hope they back and board it. I open it. Oh, no back and board. Posters ripped, you know. So that was kind of my learning experience as far as the comics. So I knew off top. So I was like, if I'm shipping this stuff,
don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want the books to get to them bent. I don't want the poster to get to them jacked up, and I want to protect it from the weather. So I was like, photo mailer, poly mailer, off tops. Of course, a lot of people are like, it's too much. You're doing too much. But everybody who's got my books, they're like, thank you. I could actually send this stuff to get graded if I wanted to, because it's in good condition, because it's backed and boarded and everything else, you know. But
Jason, what are your horror stories?
I learning how to ship posters and still learning how to ship posters has been like the bane of my life. I got a really good discount on like these little poster tubes.
Yeah.
Time. Like, my wife found them like 2 suitcases full, like big travel suitcases full of stuff at like, I don't know, a flea market or some kind of neighborhood thing or whatever. And like, I think she paid like 35 cents for like 1,000 tubes. It was a lot. It wasn't a lot. But
so you covered.
It was like 200 tubes. I was like, sure, you know, I'm about to start selling posters. I'm gonna ship them, blah blah. And I just didn't realize. I thought I had it made, so I would roll up the poster, and it was 11 by 17 poster, and then I'd take like a little piece of tape and just, you know, once it's rolled, and tape it on the outside. And I was like, okay, this should be fine. It doesn't need any paper or any kind of wrapping, or, you know, I'll just roll it up and it'll be cool. And I got feedback on it, and it was like, well, 1, the tape tore the poster, and then 2, you know, you didn't have any wrapping on it, and you rolled it up, and now when I try to unfold it, you know, it keeps rolling. They're like, I'm gonna frame it, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now when I mail stuff, you know, I make sure have cardboard sized correctly for the poster, and I always mail posters flat now. And I try as best I can to make sure that it's really tough cardboard, and then I'll wrap it with like some brown paper, or like, you know, and if I run out of brown paper, then I'll even use like typing paper or just a long sheet of paper, so I can tape it properly on the paper and make sure it stays flat. Now, even with all that work, the post office, you know, depending on who's the mail carrier, does not give a crap.
Nope. Exactly.
Bend and break everything. I mean, I put 2 stickers, do not bend on, you know, and all this, but it you know, that is a gamble. Posters are definitely big gamble, and I fear them to this day. So that's
You know, it's funny you mentioned the Do Not Bend. Actually, whenever I was trying to learn and figure out how to ship stuff, one of the individuals who, for my job, who works in our mailing department, she gave me a lot of information. And I was like, should I put Do Not Bend up there? She was like, I wouldn't. And I'm like, why? She was like, because you'll get some of them who they will try to bend it because she said do not bend. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, I won't put that up there then. So,
I'm a fan of the Postal Service. My uncle was a post office, was a mail carrier for years, retired, full benefits from the post office. But my particular mail carrier is one of those who be trying to bend stuff into the like we get like big old Amazon boxes, and she's just like,
it's gonna fit.
It's gonna fit. John, what kind of horror stories you got, my friend?
Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 horror stories, one as a collector and one as a retailer. So this week, I just got a box of comics from a publisher. I will not name names. I open it up, and all the comics, you know, and I'm used to getting them this way. They're usually not bagged and board, but there usually is some kind of bubble wrap or a foam padding. This was wrapped up with brown paper. The comics were just wrapped up with brown paper. And I open it up, and at least 10 of them all damaged. Right from the beginning. I didn't even go in. I'm like, did they really just send it to me like this? Like, not even, no bubble wrap, no protection, just you wrapped it up in brown paper, and good luck.
Leave it to the postal gods.
Yep. But but for me personally, one of the worst was I like the series Irredeemable. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And Incorruptible. And I had found a really good deal on the very last issue. I was trying to find it locally, couldn't find it, so I ordered it online. And it came in a box. I got the last issue, just one of them, in a box. No protection, just a bag, and it just had ripples across the whole thing. Then, you know, it took some time to get a hold of the seller, and like, you need to take this back. I'm not even gonna bother trying to keep this.
Yeah.
Finally, they did get back to me. Took it back. I ended up finding it later on. Not as good. Well, not as good as it originally was advertised as. But I still got to complete the run. And then later on, I got to complete the Incorruptible run as well.
Very cool.
That's wild.
I do want to give John is in the chat. John was supposed to be on tonight, but his daughter moved out today and took his streaming equipment, which was technically hers. We get it, John, with her. And so John had no way of being here with us tonight. So John, thanks for hanging out in the chat, my man.
He's here in spirit and in the chat.
Yep. Feel free to answer any questions. John is a indie press creator himself. He is the principal of Ovation Comics.
Yep.
So
the thing is, like Gemini mailers too. Like they used, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they're more expensive now than what they used to be, because I've never really used them. But I know a lot of people vouch for them because they're good. Like, I know when I've received comics in Gemini mailers, they're like,
well, let's bounce
perfect.
to that. That's one of the questions. Are Gemini mailers worth it, and are there other alternatives, maybe even cheaper alternatives?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are. Gemini mailers. Cheaper alternative for me is a photo mailer, which is what I use. The photo mailers that I buy, I can fit 3 comics in a photo mailer. If I'm if I'm shipping something more, like if I'm shipping something to a store, or, you know, if I were to ship something to John, I will bubble wrap it. But like, I am a bubble, like, people will hate me because I'm gonna go this way, then I'm gonna go this way, like, because I want to make sure that it's good to go.
Patreon comics you sent, yeah, they were about that. Yeah,
exactly. See, so you got that. Like, I bubble wrap the crap out. And the thing is, too, like, I found bubble wrap sleeves. That's another cheap alternative. Like, and I could fit, I think 8 backed and boarded comics in those sleeves, and I think that's what I use with that. I use the bubble wrap sleeves and ship those off, and they got there, you know, in good shape. So there's ways around it. However, the one thing that I have a reserve for with Gemini mailers is you always got to think about the elements, because it might be sunshine where you live, but it might go to a swamp, or, you know, somewhere where it's raining, or over here to Colorado where we get hell in July. So I mean, if I get it and it's in a Gemini mailer, and let's say Colorado Sky open up and say, hey, we want y'all to ski this summer, and snow dumps on that Gemini mailer, then I got a wet comic. Yeah, the Gemini mailer protected, but I got a wet comic. And for me, that's the reason why I use poly mailers also. Like I use and even with a Gemini mailer, they can fit it in a poly mailer. You want to protect the comic and then also protect it from the elements, because you don't know where it's going. I mean, at least do as much as you can, because I mean, even still, fire, or whatever else could still destroy it, but try to do as best as you can.
Jason, I think 133 Art ships in Gemini, or at least Gemini equivalent mailers for the most part, don't you?
We ship equivalent. I've heard a lot of good things about Gemini, but I haven't had a chance to check them out. Like I plan to delve into that part, especially if their price is right now. I just get mailers from Amazon.
Oh, really?
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's where I get mine from. Yep.
And I of course, bag and board. We get a ton of boxes from Amazon. I get a ton of boxes from. I'm in California, and there's this chain called Box City, and I'll go to Box City and lose my mind. Buy a whole bunch of boxes, bring them home. Like if they don't have already cut corrugated board, I would bring boxes home. I cut them here, because I'm cutting anyway. So I cut up a bunch of boxes, put the cardboard in, make sure they're really sturdy and get them out there like that. But I keep hearing good things about them. I definitely.
I guess I've gotten several of your packages from various Kickstarters that I've backed, and they're packed so well. I guess I just assumed. Yeah.
Yeah, they really. I think it was funny you were talking about the posters. Like I think I did. One of them I backed, or maybe it was one of the individuals who printed through you. And I think you handled the distribution of it. And I noticed that too. I was like, dang, this is a big box. But it was because the poster was flat and it was wrapped the way he said it was. I was like, okay, that's kind of dope. That's, really cool.
I a lot over that stuff, man. Like, because, I'm a collector myself. So, I want to make sure that you get it. I'm thinking of switching, though. My 133 Art posters are usually, really cardstock, 80 cardstock or something like that, 100 pounds sometimes. And for Brian's Kickstarter, not Nightfall that's going on right now, but Justice previously, and Brett, you might know about this. His posters have I have yet to figure out what paper it is, but whatever company gets them from, you can fold them, and they don't crease. If you don't if you don't personally crease them, they don't crease. So it's going to be a game changer once I figure out what that paper is.
Nice.
Yeah, you're right. I have a couple different Wingless Comics posters right here, and you're right. They're barely creased, barely.
Right, they barely. I fold them twice, and I ship them, and I sit here and agonize over it, and I'm like, no, these are really good. So, and that would make shipping way easier because you can fit those in a mailer.
Yeah. That's the company I use who does my posters is similar to that. It doesn't have a crease from the people that I get to print my comics. They do posters too, but they do the thicker, you were saying, the really thick ones. So if you fold them, they're gonna be folded.
Yeah.
They're gonna be folded. So, but the other one, and I'll drop you the link to them. But the one that I use, it's pretty good. It's like a regular poster, if you were to buy it from Walmart or something like that. So you can roll it, and it unrolls good, or they'll actually send them to you folded, and they'll be dope.
Just cannibalize whatever they do.
I know.
Yep, and do it yourself. John's been itching to talk Gemini mailers because I know what he wants to do. Go, John.
Yes. Well, one, for Jason, if you decide to order from Gemini, or anybody listening to the podcast, if you use the code ENCASED10, you'll get 10% off your entire order.
Yeah.
So that's a little incentive. So I personally like to use it, and I have looked at alternatives. There was an alternative from Bags Unlimited that I've looked at, but when I compared them both side to side, the Bags Unlimited weighed a little bit less, but the material felt a lot thinner as well, and compared to the Gemini. And when I, like Tier said, you have to prepare for the elements. So one of the things is I try to do is all my raw comics are bagged and board, but also I wrap them up in some plastic as well, at times, because especially if I'm sending it first class, because usually I can fit about standard comics 1 to 3 can fit in the Gemini and still ship USPS first class. It's all about the weight. It's all about knowing your weight. But then, but the Geminis are perfect too, because if you then have like the 4, 5, 10 comics, you can fit 10 in there bagged and boarded. That Gemini folds, and you can actually put that in a legal USPS legal flat rate mailer to send out. And so there's different ways in there, and they have not just the Gemini mailers, but they also have what they call printed mailers, which are good for magazine size comics. Just like I just got Noctera yesterday. I had to ship them, fill out orders, and this is the printed mailers are the perfect size for these. You do need to tape it down a little bit, which everyone knows I love to use the painter's blue tape to secure my comics to the mailers anytime I'm using it, because one, it's very easy to come off. How many times I've ripped bags and boards because of the kind of tape that they use. So that's kind of why I personally like to use Gemini. It's very secure. Many different ways to use it, and even though it's a light enough material to where I could at least put 3 comics for USPS first class in, more becomes priority, or even sometimes EPS.
Nice.
That is one of the things. I'm glad you mentioned the blue painter's tape, because that's one of the things. Like, I got some comics in the mail the other day. I think it was off of eBay or something. I don't even remember. But they taped them together. I had 2, and they taped them both together with packing tape all around the bags and boards. And so getting them separated from each other was like its own little puzzle. You had to just like keep figuring out where to cut so that you didn't cut the comics. And then the bags and boards, well, the bags at least are ruined. So
I'll see. So, hey, I got a question, John. Do they have orange painter's tape? Because I got to stay within brand.
They do. It costs more.
Costs more. I got to stay within brand. Yeah. Even now, whenever I ship boxes, like I found some orange duct tape. So instead of using like packing tape, I use orange duct tape, and then use my the seal tape that Sticker Mill has. So now I have that. And so I'm like, oh, cool. Got my brand, my orange tape everywhere. So people know.
But you haven't gotten the blue sticker mule tape yet? The orange?
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the whole orange one yet. I'm gonna get that next. So it'll be the full orange tape, but it's white with the with the logo on it. But I'm going for the orange one next, especially since I saw you got that blue one.
So we're a little over halfway through the show. I'm going to mention Patreon again. You can sign up to be a patron. We send you Patreon rewards. We got some cool stuff coming down the line for patrons. We got some digital comics coming your way. We got some digital and print comics coming your way. More on that very soon. But you can sign up to be a patron by either searching Indie Comics Dispatch in the Patreon app or going to patreon.com/Indie Comics Dispatch. And you can sign up there for as little as $3 a month. It really goes a long way for helping the dispatch. And then another thing I promise with usually, we do a little bit sooner, but we're a little over halfway through the show. Here is a little video from Bic Distro.
Yo.
Bic, we just wanted to bring the vibe of like an indie comic convention to the retailers.
For you out there right now, those of you who always are coming to conventions and saying, can you find your comics on the web? Well, now you can at bigdistro.com.
Like the creativity and the art and the writing is comparable to mainstream comics, and in some instances even superior.
It was like deja vu. Jason's both inside and outside.
Yeah, and if you all, Did not know. Jason is right here.
I like the music for that.
So,
Dopeness.
check out Big Distro if for some cool comics, some really cool comics, actually, not just cool comics, some really cool comics. So let's talk about fulfilling Kickstarters for a moment. John, I know this isn't your area of expertise, but you can feel free to chime in with whatever thoughts you have also. And in particular, mixing, Jason, you've already talked a little bit about this, but mixing comics with other rewards. What's the best way to do that to ensure the integrity of the comics? Jason, you do it a lot, so.
Yeah. I just make sure to take care of the comics first. I mean, it kind of depends on what you're mixing it with, but say I have a package with like shirts and maybe like trading cards or something like that. I mean, everything can, hopefully you're getting stuff from places that are giving everything their own packaging, but in the instances that you don't, I just make sure to take care of the comics first. Obviously, the comics need to be flat. You know, like if you're shipping in a box, you want to have the comic. After you make sure that, like, if the bottom of the box gets wet, you definitely want to have like some bubble wrap or some kind of plastic down there. But you want to lay the comic flat. I usually put, like when I ship for Big Distro, I get the comics flat down there on top of the, you know, whatever's protecting the bottom. And then I'll put like our catalog on top of that. And then I'll put, once everything is there, I'll have like the big bubble wrap. The shipping bubbles, not the bubble wrap. The shipping bubbles, you know, the pillows.
Yeah, I was gonna say the little pillow things.
And get those on top. And I definitely, I'm a big proponent of using the pillows to keep everything stable and like in the middle, right? Like I'm like a freak about that. Like I need it, and if it's not in the middle, like if there's not enough space for the two pillows of bubbles, I'll move everything to one side. But I make sure the pillows stabilize the package, right?
Yep.
Because you don't want that stuff moving around. You don't want the corners of the comics to get all roughed up, you know. You know, you want to try as hard as you can not to do that. So yeah, shipping different things, you just want to layer stuff to where it's stable and that you don't want anything to bend those comics. Like you don't want to roll up a shirt or some socks and then sit a comic on top of that. That's insane. Why would you do that?
So wait. Have you fulfilled a Kickstarter that had socks as a reward?
No, not yet. But shirts. Brian is a shirt man, right? Like Brian has a million comics for every Kickstarter and like a lot of shirts. So I had to learn real quick, like, how do I want to package these shirts with these comics?
I saw his retailer tier today is like 45 comics.
Yeah.
Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely did the math on that. I'm like,
Jason's sitting there going,
Yeah.
I gotta ship 45 comics.
It was like, dude, no more comics.
Yeah. I'm like, I saw that come up. I'm like, he's doing big things with that. Like I felt like I'm underserved. Like I usually throw in extra, extra stuff, but I'm like, jeez, this dude.
I thought I was giving people a lot of comics. So, you know, I print comics, so I have stuff that I can, you know, use. Man, Brian is like the Jay-Z of giving people comics.
Yeah, he's doing a thing. He's doing it.
That's hilarious. John, tip what tip or tier you fulfill Kickstarters. So let's get your answer real quick before we jump down to John.
Well, for me, I try to stay away from things like pins. I know a lot of people like them, like pins and buttons and stuff like that, but I try to stay away from them mainly because of the back. So I mean, unless you're gonna put it in its own box or something like that and keep it away from the comic, I just try to stay away from them because I've had some where I'll get a pin or a button and they'll have
that little imprint.
Yeah, you know, and it'll be on the comic. But then I've seen some people where they try to do it a little more thoughtfully, where it'd be the pin to be in a box and they might have the box inside of the Like they'll, have the comic in its own compartment with its own packing, and then the box will be on the other part of the packaging. Or if they have buttons, they'll put the buttons on the back side of the bagging board, which for me, since I'm stickered lord. Like every time I send stuff, I send a lot of stickers. Like I got so many Sovereign Commons stickers, so I just send a lot of stickers and stuff.
You get a sticker. You get a sticker.
Everybody gets a sticker. so like I said, I try to keep things flat. So what I'll do is I'll put them in the back of the bagging board, and that's where I put them at.
That's smart. Yeah, I've seen people do that with trading cards too. Slide them down in the back of the bagging board.
Yep, and I do the same thing with my trading cards. Like whenever I did the Temple High Kickstarter, I had 5 trading cards, so I went and bought well, I forget what they're called, but like the packaging with the Ziploc thing, and I have that, and I put that in the back. With Stars, I had a trading card, just one trading card, and it was a suede type of trading card. So I was like, off tops, you're getting a sleeve. Like I'm not just gonna drop that in there. Like, here's your trading card. So that one got its own sleeve, but I also put that in the back of it. Whenever I've done shirts, which I thought was funny when Jason said it, like you don't want to put the comic on top of the shirt, because the shirt is bulgy, so that all that
that's
shipping.
Funny because I bet some
start
people
bending.
out there are thinking, "I'll put the shirt down to help pad the comic."
Exactly. So I think it's great that he mentioned that, because when I ship, and I've had to ship with shirts, and like I haven't shipped anything that's box worthy yet. I have stuff coming up, because John backed my last Kickstarter, so he'll be getting his stuff in a box. I think, he'll probably be getting his stuff in a box.
Carrier pigeon.
No, I didn't get in the carrier pigeon to bring you. He's like, but since I use the poly mailers and the photo mailers, which I really like that setup, so I'll put like the comic, of course, is in its own compartment inside of the photo mailer that goes in a poly, and then I'll put the shirt on top of that, and that the shirt is in its own. Like I was looking for the polyurethane bags for shirts, but I ended up finding like these Ziploc bags, and they were thicker, so I was like, I'll use these, and so they're like a big old freaking, like, I think it's like 12 by 14 Ziploc bags, so I can put the shirt in there and put that in the poly mailer too. And that's usually how I try to do it. And like Jason was saying, like I concentrate on the comic. Comics are always going to be bag and boarded. I always use resealable bags. Folks out there, you don't have to do that. I just do that as a preference.
I like them.
Because I figure a lot of people who are buying, like myself, I'm a collector. I'm pretty sure, Jason, he says he's a collector. Brett, I know you're a collector. John, I know you're a collector. So I look at it too. Like if these are collectors buying these, most collectors like the resealable bags, so I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and send them the resealable bag with it, so they don't have to worry about it. But I comic first, and then I don't pack around the comic. Yeah, but I pack up. Yeah, but I keep the comic in mind. Like I don't want this to be bent or messed up, or as little imperfections as possible. Those, like Jason said, those corners, the corners of a comic. That's like sometimes when you get them, like those are a bit like you get them from a printer. Sometimes the corners might be chipped or ticked away, and it happens. Like those are the hardest things with a comic to try to keep safe. But I just
John,
concentrate on comic.
Like lasagna, layer the comic.
Layer.
Exactly. Yep. Like lasagna.
John, do you ever mix
Thanks,
what you
Jason.
ship, or are you mostly just comics?
No, I actually had a mixed one recently, and not only was it, so it was a couple of graded comics. So I actually put those in a bubble mailer that I got, and sealed that up, and actually make sure to put some tape around them both, because there was 2 of them. I can fit about 3 in those bubble mailers. So I take some rubber band to just secure them together, put them in there. And the person also was getting raw comics, so I put the raw comics in a Gemini mailer, and they were getting a pin. I looked at that pin. I'm like, okay, I don't want this to ruin anything that's in here. So I found a way to kind of like, because in this case, I had to use some packing peanuts and bubble wrap, and I found a way to just kind of like wrap it up on its own, the pin, and like his own little like pocket so it doesn't damage anything. And I went to the UK.
Oh wow,
Man.
And everything turned out
everything
fantastic.
Mhm.
that's fantastic.
Actually, Tier, your box is a mixed box of graded and raw comics.
Oh man. See, I'm gonna learn too. I'm gonna like take notes. Like this is how you do it.
So yeah, it changes how you pack.
Mhm.
You know, I can wrap up a graded comic no problem. I know how much the weight is without even having to put it onto my scale. But when it comes to mixing and matching, it's a different game.
Quentin, host of Quentin's Engine Works for Indie Comic Dispatch, for shipping graded comics, cut up a pool noodle to put around the edges. Pool noodle it.
I have seen it. I don't do it, but I have seen it,
Oh
and it's
man.
very efficient, especially if you get it from like the dollar.
Yeah. And I wonder how big the outside box is gonna be.
I know, that's what I was wondering. Like, how big of a package do you have to put that in?
But yeah, like, that's gonna be huge.
So this is the question I've been dying to get to, and because there's fervent people on either side of this debate, and there's certain laws governing it that don't necessarily apply to indie comics, to media mail or not to media mail.
That is the question. I personally don't use it only because my Poly Miller says Sovereign Comics on it.
So
they're
the post
like,
office popping
yeah,
that open.
Yeah, comic book. He's trying to be shipping this media mail. So I don't use it because of that. I also don't use it because of horror stories that I've heard and horror stories that I've been through, where I've had to cover the shipping because it did get auctioned. Not audited is the right word. It did get audited, going through one of the hubs, and they were like, oh, okay, this is a comic book, and then I get the mail and it's like, you owe the post office, blah blah blah. So I had to pay for that extra shipping, that extra shipping price that they decided to put on it. And then I've also heard of individuals who have shipped with media mail, and that's happened to them. So I don't use it out of fear of that, because being a business, that's the last thing I want. Is like, if I'm sending, like, let's say Jason's like, hey, Tier, we want some Sovereign Comics, so we could ship out and everything through, Big Distro. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I send it to a media mail, and then all of a sudden he's like, dude, I had to pay $50, $50 extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to deal with that, because then he's gonna be like, I'm gonna mess with this dude again. Some people say, some people say that, oh, well, they don't do it all the time. For me, 1% is enough.
Yeah.
1% is enough, because the only thing it takes is that one customer, and they might be louder than you and have more range than you. And that's the one that the universe says, hey, you're the lucky contestant. And then all of a sudden you're on Yelp, where you never were on Yelp before, you're everywhere else, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So I'll just pay the extra $2 or $3.
Jason, media mail or no media mail?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. So, okay. First, media mail horror story. That exact thing happened to me. I need to get what is it? It was like 100 or so books out, and a big box. Printing. My paper comes in these big boxes. I reuse. Sent the big box out. A couple weeks later, big box comes back. 60. Like I paid in media maybe $10, $12. I had to shipping that in the box is $60.
Yeah,
flat out $62, whatever. So I needed the books to get there. I only had a few days left because they took so long to come back. So I had to go to the post office. $60 down the drain, just because these particular books had ads. It's not a rule specifically against comics.
It's the ads.
It's the ads. If it has ads, then I think it becomes a magazine, and magazines don't ship media. It's really only supposed to be used for like textbooks and periodicals and stuff like that. But it's a gray area. So time to time, when I have, like, if it's a package that needs to get there urgently, then I don't use Media Mail.
Mhm.
But if I have time, you know what I'm saying? I got time today. I'm gonna save some money because Media Mail is super cheap. Like
Right.
super cheap. So like if you have something to ship and it's like if you have a big $60 box, I don't know what the weight and usually I'm sending huge boxes.
Mm-hmm.
That $60 box or $80 box cost me maybe $25, maybe $15. So it is worth it when I have the time. But if I don't have the time, then I'm going straight priority mailers all the time. I work with a shipping service called XPS, and we got connected with them through a rep at the post office, and they save us about 10% off packages. And it's fast. I don't have to go into the post office. I print out the shipping slips here, and I just drop them off at the loading dock. So it saves me time. It saves me a little money. So normally that's what I'm doing. We just upgraded to that maybe about a year and a half ago, especially with the pandemic. I didn't want to go in the post office. So that has been really helpful. But yes, I do Media Mail. I'm actually about to Media Mail 3 packages tomorrow. And there's time for it though, right? And if they come back, like if I spend $25, it is a pain in the butt to have to go and spend another $60, but I'm good at rolling the dice. Most of my Media Mail packages have been fine. And I've been shipping Media Mail since we started doing this, since we started like printing in volume and sort of fulfilling Kickstarters and stuff. And they've been fine. But that little small little decimal one has come back.
So I'm going to pop this in here real quick before you answer, John, to see what you think about Media Mail. It's from Gerald Boney, MythSmith, creator of MythSmith. Does the post office consider a graphic novel or trade paperback to be a book or comic book? It's a good question, Gerald. I think the post office is concerned if the book has ads in it or not. So if they pop that package open and your book has an ad, even like, what is it, Kablam, I think does back page ads for a discount or something. That's an ad, and you do not qualify for Media Mail, and you can get that kicked out if you're audited.
Because I know like and like it's a small percentage, it's like 1% of the chance of it happening.
I actually have a couple vindictive clerks at my post office, and I knew that one package was going to come back because she was like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's comics." She's like, she goes into telling me the Media Mail rules. I'm like, "I know the rules." Relax. And the way she looked at me when I left, I was like, "This thing's coming."
Yeah, she was like, "I'm gonna show you." But
I don't know why. I was like, "Why we gotta hurt the black man?"
Just trying to make some money. Yeah, because I know, like for me, I have like my printer ad in there because I like to represent, the printer. So I know that right there's going to disqualify it. And then I have my own ads for my own books.
And that can get confusing too. I've heard that people do that, and the post office is like, "No, this is an ad," but it's like, "But it's an ad for my own book. It's not an ad." And they're like, "It's an ad." John, do you Media Mail?
I do not Media Mail at all. I've heard enough horror stories. I mean, you look at I have so much branding on my box. It's Encased Comics right outside the box.
Yeah, they're gonna pop it.
Label. It's gonna get opened. I don't bother. It's the customer paid for the book, they paid for the shipping. If shipping was separate from it, and I want to make sure they're gonna get their comic in a timely fashion. I'm not gonna just save a couple dollars just using Media Mail. That's just me. Plus, like I said, the ad rule.
And
I think the only thing I've heard that is an exception to that's still not clear is the older, like the Silver Age and the Golden Age comics, because those ads have kind of expired at this point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
most of the 90s.
But so it's like it's one of those areas that it's still, because it's so gray and not clearly defined. I just rather stay away from it.
Yeah.
So
and you go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying we need a lobby. Like comics needs a lobby to get like, oh, this is media mail worthy.
Yeah.
That'll be Indie Comic Dispatch's one advocacy cause, lobbying the post office to repeal that rule for comics. Jason, I'm pretty sure this is a question from you. It comes from some listener named Brian. Do you have a favorite creator company that you work with or follow, and why is it Wingless Comics?
Because they give people way more comics for their buck.
45.
And, yeah, I just love printing every little piece of comic that comes from those things. It does make me sweat, and it's not nerve-wracking at all.
I hope you don't get like, I mean, for Brian, I hope he does get like 10, 12, 13 stores that get that tier. But for you, Jason,
Brian clarified it's also for you, John. Why is Wingless your favorite comic book company to work with?
I just enjoy the stories. Trust me, I looked at that retail bundle. I was like, I mean, it's not even just the comics; it's also the prints that come with it too.
Yeah. 50 posters of 3 different posters. I mean,
so like 150 prints. And then 45 comics.
Jason was talking about those big boxes he uses.
So he should name that the comic book shop starter pack. Like that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Sean Calvin, if you're watching.
So
yeah.
Okay, last question before we wrap things up. And we guys, if you're out there watching, we do have a Patreon bonus question that the gentlemen are going to record with us after this broadcast ends. So unless you're a patron, you don't get to get that, and you're just out of luck for the gems they're going to drop. And the question I'm going to ask them is this: it's one cost-cutting trick you've learned. You can only hear that if you're a patron.
And that's going to be some great advice.
Isn't it though?
I have a couple.
Yeah, me too. Like, I know Jason does. I mean, think about this, listeners. Not only will you get some comics when you sign up, you're going to get this jewel. So if you're a comic creator, I mean, man.
So the last public question is: I've heard of post offices being mad when creators come in with like 100 boxes. What are some tips with working with local post offices when you ship large quantities, like fulfilling a Kickstarter or maybe just fulfilling a lot of sales?
I'll let you go. Go ahead, Jason.
You go ahead.
I've talked to mine because like I actually have a hub like right up the road from me. So I've talked to them and like so they know me. Like I used to go in there and I have like my shirt on, either this shirt on when it's not cold, or I have my hoodie on. So they know me. I'm like, oh, you bringing more comics? Like, yep. So I talk to them, get to know them. I ask them questions and things like that. I asked them about the media mail stuff, and that was one of the things they pointed out. I was like, you got comics on your poly mailer. I wouldn't do it. so I will ask them that, get to know your post office. Talk to them when you go in. Don't just drop the package. Like if you see an employee there, have a conversation with them. Let them know who you are. Let them know, hey, I'm going to be bringing a lot of books in here because actually I had one. She kind of she did save me because we had there was 2 different drop areas, and for the longest I had been putting my comics in one area. And she came out because she heard me putting them in there. She was like, "Are you almost done?" I'm like, "Nope, got some more left." She was like, "Put them over there in that one." It was like this big old, like a 5-gallon drum that you roll it and you put them in there. And so I'm like, "In there?" She was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Because if you put it in that one, we'll pull it on a pallet." She was like, "If you put it in this one, we're gonna put it with the envelopes." I'm like, "Oh." So there's some knowledge for folks. And when you go in the post office, don't put it in the blue thing or the one, even though it says odd shaped envelopes, don't put it in that one. Find that one that you pull the handle and roll it and put it in there, because then your stuff is going to get palletized. So at least at my post office, I'm pretty sure it's like that at every hub too. Or
I just like your point of just talk to them because they're people.
Exactly. Like don't go in there like, yeah, I run a comic book business. You're gonna do this. Don't be that. Don't be Karen. And what's the dude's name?
Comic Karen.
Don't be
John or Jason. What tips have you learned?
Actually, same as Tier. Just talk to your. So I I ship raw comics through USPS. I ship graded comics through UPS,
Hmm.
and I get to know everybody that's there, and it really does help. And it's funny because when I didn't go in there for like a month, they were worried about what happened. Why wasn't I there for a while? But they actually helped me recently, where instead of me waiting online, because I am like to get them scanned and accepted right there on the spot, so I know that they're hit the system.
Mhm.
I used to stay online. They're like, well, you don't have to stay online anymore. The self serve kiosk, you can just scan your prepaid labels there. It's like, you can. So the manager came out. She sat there for a couple minutes, showed me how to use it, and it just makes dropping off even easier. Just I can self scan all my stuff, accept a receipt, and they have a big bin right there or the rolling thing, and just put them in there. It's all about relationship.
Yep.
Jason, any last tips?
I agree with talking to him. Like there's a couple of ridiculous ones, but there's a couple really cool clerks at my post office as well. So yeah, definitely talk to him. Also, like I said earlier, look into a shipping service. There's like stamps.com. I used them for a little while, but I didn't really like the $14.99 a month thing. Like that was $19.99 a month now, but that was a little expensive for what we were doing at the time. But my wife, who is brilliant, her name is Kimmy, she talked to a rep at the post office. She's like, just go to the source, figure out, how we can get discounts there. We're a business now. We're a small business. And the rep connected us again with XPS. This is an online service. And we saved roughly 10% on every package. And we don't have to go into the post office. Now, me, I am an introvert, so I'm not a gabby, when I go in the post office. I'm friendly, I'm nice, but I'd rather not be in there. And for me, dropping things off at the loading dock, especially since I have so many boxes all the time, is amazing. I pull up to the loading dock, I unload my truck, and I'm out of there. It's like a 5-minute endeavor. So I would say look into that, especially if you're a small business and you have a sort of LLC designate kind of deal. You save so much time, and which means you're saving money in time. So that's it. Yeah.
Very good.
Great advice.
Great advice. There's some really good tips and tricks and just overall just fun stories. Go ahead, man.
Brett. One
No,
thing
you're good.
too is with the service that we use, there's tracking. So I can go online right now and see where all my packages are, in real time. So that's also has been really helpful for invoicing and for all that stuff. Sorry, Brett.
No, that's great. That's great.
The tracking part is important because I know in the beginning days of me shipping stuff, we either forget to get the tracking or won't get a tracking, and people are like, haven't gotten it yet. You don't want to be the So like what I use now, my shipping service I use now, it comes with tracking. Pirateship.com. It comes with tracking. So
Pirateship.com, you can sponsor us.
Yep. I know, right? We're all using it. But yeah, so even whenever I send that message, because it has an automated message, and if I have the person's email, it'll send them a message. It is like, here's your tracking number. And it tells them wait 24 hours for it to get in the system, based off of that. So yeah, like you said, shipping services are great. They're so great. It's so helpful. So
yeah. Gentlemen, we're at the end of the show. I just want to take a moment to thank you. This seemed like a really niche topic, but one that needed to be discussed because there's so much discussion out there about it, but nobody really wants to tackle that problem. So indie creators, listen, I back your stuff on Kickstarter. I buy your stuff. Don't send it to me in a manila envelope.
Please don't. Or a priority mailer. I get wanting to save money, but
yeah.
We can go into branding and shipping and stuff like that. That's probably a whole other show. Branding and shipping. That's a whole other show. But when you're shipping stuff, that's the reason why I got poly mailers too that had Sovereign Comics on it, because I don't know if my comic's going to run across a comic head that works at the post office. Right. So they see it, they're like
fans along the way.
Yeah, they're like, hey, I've seen 40 envelopes from Sovereign Comics come through this way. Who are these guys? And then now I have my social media stuff, my website, all that good stuff up there. So maybe they pick their phone. Think about putting do I have a QR code on the new one? I don't know if I have a QR code on the new one, but that would be a dope. You could just scan
He's
it.
getting distracted right now.
Hold on,
He's
hold on.
going down his idea rabbit hole.
Let's end the show. I'm done. Let's end the show.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching, listening. If you're on the podcast, next week we're going to be talking about building a fan base. We have Sebastian Jones from Stranger Comics and TJ Sterling from Okamus. He's going to be on Ray Comics. So it's going to be a fantastic show next week, just picking their brains about building a fan base for your comics. John, Jason, thank you guys so much. You guys can check out Jason again at 133art.com or Bic, BIC, distro, distro.com. Or you can check out John at encasedcomics.com. We've had questions about that before. It's encased with an EN. .com, and you can get his discount on Gemini mailers with what discount code, John?
Encased 10.
All right.
I put it in the YouTube chat. So if you want to put it in the Facebook one.
Guys, thank you so much. Don't as we go offline here, don't hang up because we're going to record that Patreon bonus content that you can only see if you're a patron. Guys, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Take it easy, folks.
Later.